The intended use of this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the host and guests independently, and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Updog Challenge Incorporated, its sponsors, or any other partnered organizations. Updog Challenge Incorporated does not guarantee the accuracy or reliability of any opinions expressed. In no way should the information provided during the Sweet Spot and Updog podcast be considered veterinary, medical, legal, or professional advice. At all times, the advice of your personal professional should supersede any information provided, derived, or inferred from listening to this podcast.
Ready, set, go.
Welcome to the Sweet Spot, an Updog podcast. I'm Andrea Morissette.
And I'm Jack Faley. We are your hosts today, and we are going to have an excellent discussion. We do not have a guest today, but we're going to have an excellent discussion on the Freestyle Crown.
Whoop, whoop. We can talk about freestyle today.
The Freestyle Crown is ongoing in October, and Dre and I, as well as Tracy Custer, have been judging the Freestyle Crown. We have over 140 teams this year, which is amazing.
Our biggest one yet.
And we wanted to just kind of share some thoughts that that Dre and I have had, and we've kind of had some conversations back and forth about some different topics, and we think that these would be very interesting to you. How could they not be? They're about freestyle.
They're about freestyle. These are my favorite episodes to record, as pretty much everyone that listens to this podcast would know. So when Jack brought up this topic, I was like, absolutely. And the first question right off the bat makes me really happy because it's talking about scoring and understanding something that Jack posted to the discussion page yesterday, kind of as I think you headed off the topic saying the more you know. And what he posted was our judges cheat sheet. So anytime that we're judging one of our events, one of our Updog events, we pull out our judges rubric. And it's basically a breakdown of what the scores 0 to 5 mean in quarter point increments. So it's kind of like we call it a cheat sheet because when you're judging, it makes it real easy to just, I reviewed that cheat sheet for every single one of the rounds, every single time. I looked at it and I was like, okay, where do they fit in this category? Is it this category or that category? And it really helps kind of keep you in line when you're judging something subjectively, so that your scale doesn't get too skewed high or low. So I hope that's a good explanation of what our rubric is.
Yeah, and many of you guys know I come from an education background, and rubrics are used in education to give students a grade on something. And they're used when, you don't have, it's not like 20 questions on a spelling test and you got, 19 of them right, so you get a 95. That's pretty straightforward and cut and dry. It's more like, if the kids are working on a science project and we're going to give a grade on a science project, I need to give the kids some criteria on what are we looking for when you present your science project? Do you need a notebook with your data? Do you need a science board? There has to be some expectations. In this dogging, we give those expectations out on the breakdown of skills for dog, human, and team. That lets you know what Updog values in a freestyle routine and what we're looking for. So you have this criteria, and then the rubric is essentially helping us as judges know when we look at this freestyle routine and we give a score between 0 and 5 on each one of the skills, what does a 2 mean? What does a 4 mean? What does a 3 mean? Is it just some random number that I just pull from my head? We hope not, because we have a rubric for that. And we, just like Dre said, this was posted on the Updog Challenge discussion page. So we're going to kind of talk about some of the little score ranges here and what they mean. But you can totally go back and look at that sheet for yourself. There's also some examples at the bottom part of the sheet that you can take a look at as well. But one of the things that I think I know from my local club, and I also know from visiting other local clubs, that oftentimes judges like to make people feel good about their scores. I mean,
And
who
they
doesn't?
don't want them to feel bad.
Right. I mean, I feel the same. I don't want anybody to feel bad about their score. And I think the first thing to understand is that like if there's a 5 point scale and you get a 2.5, which is right in the middle of that 5 point scale, that sounds like a 50%, right? That
Mhm.
sounds like a failing score if it
Because of
was
our,
if
yeah,
it was a
because of our
test,
school failing
right?
system, right?
Exactly. But like in this rubric, a 2.5 is kind of like an average score. It's a
Yep.
decent round. It's not like above average yet, but it's just kind of middle of the road. And we have a description for if somebody were to get a 2.5, what is that description? So let's just take 2.5, Dre, and let's just
Yep.
say, so like, let's say that you were judging me on dog and you were judging my dog on collection and control, and I got a 2.5. Like, what would that mean about what you saw?
So I'll tell you what I think it would mean in my own words, and I'll also read what that spot is on our rubric. Okay, so I'll start with the rubric. So for our rubric, that range would be in between the 2 and the 2.75 range, which actually 2.5 is just below the 275. And the 275 is important because it's just before the next level. And the difference between that is whether something happens in the majority of the routine or not in the majority of the routine. So I want to preface it with that because if we're using the rubric, it's real easy to determine where the scores should be. Did it happen most of the way through the whole routine, or did it not happen most of the way through the routine? So if it's a 2.5, it didn't happen all the way through the routine, but I noticed it. Did I notice it almost through the whole routine? No. Did it only show up a couple times? It showed up more than a couple times. So if it's more than a couple times, but not really close to all the way through the routine, that's a 2.5 inside the rubric, right? Now, how do I know I'm in that range when I'm judging something? Is for me, a 2.5 is an average beginner player. Like you're in your middle baseline of the range of players you'd see walking out in the field. From a 1 being somebody just walking out in the field where their dog's still working on catching and they're still working on throwing a basic backhand timing. That would be in the 0 to 1 or 7-5 range, right? And then the 4 to 5 range is like mastery. Like the best in the world at that skill are going to be in the 4 to 5 range. So that 2.5 is only 1.5 off of best in the world. So while it feels like 50% inside of our scoring category is a failing grade, it's middle of the road. It's average. So average is hard to get to for the person that can't throw the disc and time it to their dog in the 10 zone. That's 0 to 1 is somebody who can't even throw the disc. So average 2.5, there's a huge range of skills that go all the way up to 2.5. And then from 2.5 up to that 4 range is really where you start working on mastery of things. So like 2.5 is not a bad score. It's an average score. And anything above that is really when we're starting to play in that mastery category. We're working towards being the best in the world at something.
So again, like if you guys think about a skill, drive is another skill that's
Yeah.
part of the dog category. So and Dre mentioned that when you get to a 3,
Mhm.
the description changes, and she's absolutely right about majority of time versus not the majority of time. And
Mhm.
if you look up the meaning of majority, it means more than 50% of the time.
Yep.
So if more than 50% of the time, let's say we're talking about drive, my dog was showcasing good drive for the game of disc. And by the way, in our rubric, it says the game of disc is catching the disc.
Catching the disc, which was important.
So
Yeah.
so like just because my dog is running around and jumping in the air and kind of wanting to play around with me, if they're not
Right.
actually going after the disc trying to bite it and catch it, they might be showing drive for play,
Right.
but not necessarily drive for the game of disc. But let's just say that I'm watching a round and the round is 2 minutes long and there's only a couple points, maybe there's only 2 times that the dog checks out for like a second or two.
Mhm.
Then that means that that dog was showing drive for the game the majority of the time. 3, that score of 3 is kind of a tipping point for players and judges to know that if my dog or me or the team, depending on the category, does something in the majority of the time, now I know I'm in the threes somewhere, right?
Yep.
I'm in three or higher anyway. So like I'm three or higher. So if my dog only checked out a couple times, I know I'm probably going to get a score of three or higher.
Mhm.
How do I know if I'm going to get a score of three or maybe like 4.5, Dre?
Well, for me
Are you
personally,
laughing because you don't think I'm going to get a 4.5?
yes. Um,
Not if it's a tally.
no. So I don't really 4.5s don't happen a lot for me. Um, from like 4.7, I don't know that I gave any 4.75s at
I
all.
gave one.
And I don't know that I didn't give any five. So like for 4.5s, there is a handful. Um, it's like it's got to be really good. Like really, really good for me to give a 4 or 5. And it's got to be like success across the whole thing and high level of difficulty, high level of flow, no interruptions. Like a 4 or 5 would be the dog maybe over rotating on one landing and maybe not giving a perfect handoff on one difficult retrieve. That would be a 4 or 5. And if they didn't do that, if they were perfect, we'd be looking at 4.75. For me to give a dog a 5, they've got to be dropless. They've got to have a super high level of difficulty and they have to be perfect. Like nothing I could have seen that was better than that. I've given those
So,
in the performance round. I don't know that I've ever given them for criteria.
so our
And
rubric,
I only think I've done it once or twice in performance ever.
so our rubric says the language changes, right? It's from a four, when we get to, so we know now that a three is majority of the time.
Yep.
And when you get to a four, the language changes again. It
Mhm.
says, mastery of these skills were evident throughout the entire routine.
Yep.
So there is no lapse in demonstration of that skill.
Yep.
So
From
going back
4
to,
on, just a 4. So
right.
there's another gap there. That 375 to 4 is similar to the gap from the 275 to the 3. It goes from like not a majority to a majority of the time. And then it goes from majority of the time to mastery.
So
Like,
like, so go back to the example of my dog with drive, right? And it's
yeah.
just that one skill I'm talking about. And if so the dog has strong drive the whole time, and let's just say at some point maybe I threw it and it was close to the edge of the field, and there was a kid there with a hot dog eating it,
That's
and
so mean.
and my
I
dog
instantly think of Kai Bear.
and my dog checked out and went and sniffed the hot dog and licked the kid's face and then came back.
No 4 for
That
you.
is not the entire routine.
No 4 for
So
you.
unfortunately,
Three
that
five.
team would not score in the 4 to 5 range. They would still be in the 3 to the 3.75 range.
Yep.
But let's say the hot dog kid's not there, and my dog does showcase a high level of drive throughout the whole round.
Yeah.
Now, okay, now I'm in the fours, but am I at a 4 or am I at a 4.25 or a 4.5? In the language, this is how the judges determine
Yep.
that. The language says, excuse me, at a high level of difficulty, and the human dog or team showed multiple different examples of these skills. So, in other words, like let's say that my routine took place in the sweet spot and we never left the
Right.
sweet spot.
Then your disc
Well,
management wouldn't be right there. Your disc management score couldn't be high enough.
and we're
Or
even
use the
talking,
field.
we're just talking about drive right now. So
Oh
like
yeah.
the drive of my dog, like if I keep my dog close to me and I'm always engaging with my dog and discs are always flying, it's a lot easier to keep that high level of drive in a small space than it
Yep.
is when I start spreading the field and I'm throwing over by that hot dog kid,
Distractions and kids and other
right?
dogs and sounds and noises and yep.
So those are the things that the judges keep in mind when they're looking at, okay, is this a 4 or is this a 4.25 or
Yep.
maybe even a 4.5?
Yep.
And
And something interesting there about drive while we're on that topic that I noticed because I did judge dog. And one of the things that I thought quite often about is that some of the deductions on scores for drive was too much drive.
right.
So it's not
Yeah.
always that the dog isn't engaged. A lot of times people will be like, "What? Why did I get a lower drive score?" Hey, can you guys go? Why did I get a lower drive score? My dog was super engaged the whole time. Exactly. They were overdriven. They didn't have enough focus and self-control to do something the way that they should have done it if their brain was in it. So like there's an overdrive also, and it doesn't specifically allude to that in the rubric.
It
Like
does
it
in the
doesn't
notes
say,
though, in the
yeah,
bullets. Yeah.
yeah. So you want to look for that it's not just not that your dog isn't engaged. They can be engaged with you the whole time and be over aroused, and that can still impact your drive score. So too much drive is also not optimal. It goes both directions. So that was one of the thoughts that came up for me a lot when I was reading the rubric as I was judging, was a lot of the dogs got dinged on their drive score because the dog was slightly out of control. They didn't quite, because that impacts collection and it impacts all those other categories. If the dog doesn't have the self-control with their drive to slow down at the right time, then they don't collect enough. And then the disc management goes off and all that stuff kind of changes. So it's not just one direction either, was my point. And that applies for all the categories. Sometimes you can have too much instead of not enough.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Like, sometimes it that comes out in like, pre-jumping. It comes out in over pursuit of the disc. Sometimes it spills over into some of the other categories as well. And that's an interesting topic too, is that sometimes the skills are not discrete. In other words, if your dog excels at one skill, oftentimes there's a connected skill that they will also be excelling at. Or if they are
Yeah,
struggling in one skill, they could also that could also then start knocking down some of the other skills, because
yeah,
even though they're discrete on the score sheet, many of them are very closely connected. Um, Obviously, if you have a high drive dog, they're more likely to be making more catches, things like that. So,
yep,
uh,
yep.
so before we move off of the rubric, because I know we want to kind of talk about some of the patterns and things that we saw as we were scoring too, but I think this idea and helping our players and judges alike to understand why we have this rubric.
Mhm.
It's for our players as well as our judges. Like, we've been talking about it from the judge's perspective. And from the judge's perspective, like, the goal of having a rubric like this is to create consistency. So like when I score and I put down a 4, I know what that 4 means. When Dre puts down a 4, she knows why she gave that 4. When somebody in Pacific Northwest puts down a 4, they should know why they're putting down a 4.
Right. Yep.
And so we have those descriptions. It saves us time. I mean, I don't know about you, Dre, but as soon as like
Yep.
I use that idea of the 3 a lot. And I was just like, okay, did it happen all
Yep.
the time? Did it happen most of the time, or did it happen less than most of the time? Because I know that's my cutoff between 2, 3, and 4.
Yep.
And it
Yep.
just saves you time when you're thinking to be able to quickly slot it in one of those
And
scores.
then break it down into quarter points from there. Okay,
Right.
so it happened a majority of the time. Did it happen just barely a majority of the time? A majority of the time, like just 75%, or was it really close to being into that next category? And that's how I kind of gauge which quarter point I put it in.
So like it definitely helps our judges, but really the rubric is also there for our players.
To
And
understand why they got the scores they got.
exactly. So if you've just been looking, like if you've just gotten your scorecard back and all you're doing is looking at the score itself and you're like, okay, I got a 2.5 or okay, I got a 3.75. If you don't know what those numbers mean, then you don't have the same level of information that somebody gets your score back and goes, oh, Dre gave me a 3.75 in drive. I know what that means about my dog. There must have
Mhm.
been a couple times where my dog was either overdrive or checked out a little bit because I didn't quite make it to that 4.
Yep.
So it's important as a player that you kind of know what those scores mean as
Then you know what you need
well.
to work on for skills. So like, okay, I need more in retrieval, or I need more in drive, or I need more in tracking and collection. And then you can reach out to a friend. Hey, I know your tracking and collection score was great. I got a low score in that area. Do you see anything or have any ideas of what might be, or I can improve? Do you want to get together and work on some drills or school? That's how we create community. You could do it with your disc club. You can have training weeks where you could even do a meetups over the winter because, we're coming into winter time and it's harder to be inspired if you have indoor space that you're doing with your club. You can even do category weeks where you might focus on dog like for the month of training or whatever, and then one category a week for each meetup of like how you can improve that category. But all of these are literally just dog training skills broken down into subcategories so that you guys know what the skills are that you can focus on and improve and train for.
Yeah, absolutely. And it helps us too as we write our comments. Like most of the time, I can take a look at my scoring, and the comment that you would likely get on improvement is probably one of your lower skill scores.
Right.
So that I can look at that skill score and go, okay, what would I have done differently there, or what kind of guidance could I provide to this player so that they could do better at drive, or so that they could do better at whatever the skill is.
Yep.
So, all right, so let's move on from the rubric here. So, Dre, like I said, 140 teams plus
Yeah.
teams, right? Any patterns or anything that you noticed in things that you saw our players doing, our
Yeah, so
teams
that's
doing?
that's one of the conversations that you and I and Tracy like to have when we're judging some of our larger updog events is we notice that we say a lot of the similar cues when we're judging a category. Now, the cool thing for me this time is I'm judging dog. I don't even remember the last time I judged dog, and I am so happy about it. Like, this is fun. I've missed judging dog, so I might be on the dog train for a while. So I got to look at it newly because I just haven't really even focused on that category for a while. Jack, you did team, and I think Tracy did human. Is that right?
Yep,
So
that is
just from the
correct.
beginning so that everybody knows which judge was which. We get individual messages of people asking. So now you know. I did dog, Jack did team, Tracy did human. So what I noticed in the dog category, the things that made the most difference were something that you just alluded to, were dogs having trouble with tracking collection and pre-jumping, or over pursuing, or not knowing the timing of when to throw the disc so that the dog would be able to actually collect and catch. Because the timing is really hard when the dog is running from a different part of the field. And it's not a dog category, shapes. It's not in my category, right? But the comment was actually about letting your dog lead out on the flank before you make the throw, because it just makes it so much easier for the dog to catch and track the disc. They're already running that line. If they're a dog like Freebird that has trouble collecting and making good choices because they like to run a whole lot, you could just throw a little bit off the dog's line, and that throwing off the dog's line helps interrupt that running pattern. If you have a dog that loves to track early, you could just put it up there nice and early and let the dog track it. And if you have a dog that, like a whippet type that is going to zoom, you can let them lead out in that flank before you throw, and then they're not zooming quite as far. So like that feedback, random dog flu. That feedback showed up in a lot of the rounds for dogs that were having trouble with their tracking collection, was to let them lead out in the flank a little bit more so that the dog actually could collect their body, track the disc, and not have like a pursuit straight line forging catch. I would
I
say that
know,
was I noticed.
I know. Both Dre and I talked about this as we were before we pressed record on the podcast. So I want to repeat it because I think you guys would like to hear it. But there were a lot of teams that played last year that also played this year, and one
Mhm.
of the coolest things that we both saw were improvements,
Big
and
improvements in skill.
how much better teams looked
Yep.
from last year to this year,
Yep.
which is awesome. It lets us know that you've been working all year, you've been putting in time to train and practice with your dogs, and like practice your throwing and all of that.
Yeah.
Um, there were many times when I was like smiling, like just
Mhm.
I found myself just smiling watching a team because I'm like, oh, wow, they're doing like so much more unique stuff, so much more team connectedness
Yeah.
stuff. and just looking like a more connected and smooth team this year than perhaps when I saw them last. And that's always just rewarding for us to
I felt so
see.
proud
Yeah, just to
of
see
our
our
team.
freestyle teams, the Updog freestyle teams, just doing
High
such cool
level
freestyle.
freestyle.
Yeah.
It was great. There was a handful of teams where I was like, I can't think of anything else that I saw that's missing, but maybe another one of the things that I thought of after I said that, the second thing that I said a lot for the higher level teams that were looking to like all your basic check boxes were checked. One of the things that was a big one is like add a really creative retrieve. Instead, that would like purposeful creative retrieval. Because otherwise, all I'm observing is like the dog is obviously dropping on the flank
Like a
when
like a handoff or something, or
yeah, like something to because everybody's dog drops out in the field wherever, and everybody's dog will drop near you-ish when you come in off of a freestyle set to start another set. So like everybody's kind of baseline there for the most part. Let's just say the teams that are on our average or better score of the rubric and that 3 point and above range for the rubric, you need to start looking at finer skills. Everybody has the basic check boxes already, right? And you and I were just talking about that this morning, like what makes your routine have more ingenuity. And so, something for the retrieval category was one of the categories where I think it's easy for people to capitalize and make a big jump in a category because everybody else is not really doing anything cool there. So, the higher level teams, if you look at the teams that are all in the fours, all of them have creative retrieves. They have
so
stall
when
retrieves, they have rebound retrieves, they have hind leg stand up and handoff retrieve, back up at a distance retrieve. So, I would
if
add a
you're
creative retrieve.
if you're just if you're just starting to think like, okay, what could I do? Like an easy one to do would be like a fish,
Mhm.
like a flip to a fish, and then grab that disc out of the
Yep.
dog's hand. I saw.
Shuffle for multiples instead of just the single disc. Like a flip multiple is a multiple, but it doesn't show handoff. So if you did flip fish multiple, then it would show that the dog can hand off in a rapid pattern, which contributes to your retrieval.
I saw a number of Jakey handoffs, which I thought were
Yep.
were cool.
Yep.
And by the way, as Dre is saying, that's your retrieval skill. Remember that the retrieval skill is in the disc management skill section. So that's disc management from the dog. So the disc management on the dog category is where that's coming in. But yeah, that I saw a number of cool like retrieve to hand
Yep.
moves.
Yeah, and so that's just one of those little categories where it's like icing on the cake. If you've got all your basics, your boxes checked for your updog categories, and there's a category where you're a little bit low, one of the ones that you can definitely get a good spike is adding in a couple of those. And that half point or three-quarters point or a point that you get from that is going to be a lot easier earned than some of the half points that you get in other categories that you can't control as much.
Well, and that's how you get to from the 375,
To
which
the
is
fourth spot.
just means that your dog was doing it all the time.
Yep. Mhm.
Now, how do I showcase that my dog's doing it at a higher
Higher
level?
level.
And so that's where these retrieve the hands could be, or these unique retrieves could be adding to your score. And then
Yep.
I'll throw out there again um, use of field. Like when you spread the field,
Yep.
that
Increases
makes
all
your
your scores.
disc management way harder. So
Yep.
like and that I want to address this too because I don't want some people to think, gosh, why did I get this low score? There were a few teams where it would have been impossible for me to give them
Because the space was too
a
small.
higher score in many of their scores simply because of the field that they chose to
Mhm.
play on.
Yep.
And I know people are sometimes restricted by, they don't have a park that they can go to, or their school doesn't let them do it, or whatever. So they're stuck playing maybe in their yard or whatever. And that's definitely better than not playing. But if you're in this small space, skills like disc management can't be showcased. Skills like use of field can't be showcased
Yep.
because when the updog scoring system is based on the updog field, not your 6x3 field in the
At home.
backyard.
Yeah. Let me make a
So
10 by 10 field. I'm using the whole field, guys.
right,
The whole
exactly.
field.
Exactly. Yeah. Like I remember last year we had somebody that was like playing on it, a couple people actually playing in an indoor space that wasn't that big. And sure, they
Mhm.
were using that entire indoor space, but that's their field, not the updog field. So
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's that's one of the ones. It's in and I understand that some people are, on the road or they don't have access to a public field or maybe weather's already kicked in and they're very limited. And I heard a lot of feedback about even some people like, they had their perfect round and the person took a photo instead of taking a video. Oh, like the
oh man,
heartbreaker.
that's
A
horrible. They
heartbreaker.
need
I
to
felt so bad
fire
for
their
them. I
fire their
told them that I was
cameraman.
like fired forever, never ever again holding my video. Yeah, so
That sounds like something I would do though, so I can't really.
yeah. There was a handful of heartbreakers that I heard for, various reasons like that for round one. And my response or my thought about it is every contest you go to and every organization has a unique like flair or strategy or like Skyhounds is very different from USDDM is very different from Updog in regard to how you approach freestyle. And online is one of them. Just like TV, like when we do the invitational, that's a unique spin too. They don't get to use their own music. They have to show up at this weird place and do this weird format. That's a unique spin. I know there's, a lot of people like stressing out about the music thing and all that, but like if you think about all these little details of Freestyle Crown being an online video competition, like you can use the differences to capitalize, right? Or you could just play it like a normal contest if you want. But the point being is that like it does have a unique spin as a video contest, just like Freestyle Invitational is going to have its own unique spin, just like Updiff has its own unique spin. And so I think, as with all of our games, there are strategies to unlock to capitalize on the different formats that we provide. And that's all part of the game. So we're
I
excited. Like we hear your complaints. We got it. We know
I
that there are challenges.
I
Yeah.
was glad I had my giant monitor when I was going
Some of
through
them were
this
so far away.
because like
Like
some
this,
people were doing a great job of using the field, but the further they got out, the
I could
smaller they
use.
got on my screen, and
I'm like,
I'm like, was that the dog jumping up or was that a disc in the air? I'm not
I
sure.
know. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just one of those things. And it brought me back to that other conversation that we had had. We need to still do that this winter, Jack. We need to do that flash contest thing this winter. But one of the things I was
The
thinking,
sizzle reel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we need to bring that back. Write a note. Make sure we bring that back this winter.
I think that
But
would be fun. Yeah.
yeah,
All
but
right.
I was even thinking that for this, like people could put more effort into just the video part of it having a certain style or presentation, and we can still see how you use the field. If you use, like, let's say you had a
And
Vanessa Finelli style video of your freestyle crown, you can't tell me that's not going to help your score. If it's great video and I could see everything, and I'm not saying they're slow-mo because you're not allowed to speed it up or slow it down, but to see a close zoom in and you could see the dog's athleticism and the person's dynamic and the long throw and the spin on it and that kind of stuff. Like there's nothing in our rules that say you can't zoom in and that you can't have somebody
I mean,
zooming and zooming out. It's just that we have to be able to see it to judge it.
yeah, and that's really
So
no different than
yeah.
when you're playing live. Like when I play my small dogs, like when I play Wham and I'm gonna do like something on the ground with her, I bring it close to the judges
Yes, so they can
because
see.
when she does her chest vault, it's gonna look way more impactful 10 feet from the or 10 yards from the judges than it will be 30 yards out in the field
10 feet
somewhere.
too.
Well,
I'd catch her.
yeah. I mean, with Spice, I used to do a chest vault towards the judges because she would leap up and it would look cool, like she's
Yeah.
coming right at you, like
Yeah.
it's going to be more impactful. So yeah, we do the same things when we're out on the field. We want to make sure like our back is not to the judges when we're doing
Yep.
like a cool juggle or something. Same thing when you're doing video, like Dre said, like if you just again, we understand sometimes you don't have a camera person and sometimes you just got to set up a camera on a tripod. If that's
Yeah.
where you're at, do
That's
that.
where you're
But
at.
if you
But there's opportunities here
right.
that y'all are missing that you haven't thought of yet in regards to how you can present video to us to have it be more entertaining, more dynamic, more athletic, get more credit for your stuff, all of that. So, and the other thing is too, there were a bunch of videos. I don't know if a bunch of clubs did it, but I know that Minnesota Club did it a meetup where they set up a field and speakers and all that, and they ran their freestyle routine like a competition and videoed them all together as a group. So again, you could have somebody on the side doing close in, high definition video for that, and somebody doing the wide. And again, it has to be one continuous shot where you're not cheating, you know what I mean? But there were some videos that we received where it like zoomed in and zoomed out and zoomed in and zoomed out for certain things. So
There were a
I think
couple
it's
of them
creative.
where the cameraman was like, or camera, it was a cameraman in this situation, but like, uh, they were narrating,
Yeah.
just like, I don't need your narration. I don't, and like, there was a close call where it was like, it almost looked like, was that a catch or not? And the
He was
person's
like,
like, oh
yeah,
yeah, that was a catch.
that was a catch for
I'm like,
sure.
I'll decide if this is a
Thank
catch.
you.
Like, it was just, it was funny, but I have to say, like, when you've got people cheering in the background and
It
stuff
helps.
like that too, that can
Yep.
impact, our
Yep.
thought process a little bit. Not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not gonna be the difference between a 2.5 and a 3, but it could be
It could be
if
a quarter point.
I'm deciding between a 2.5 and a 2.75, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of cheering, and I could clearly see what was going on in your video, that could influence me to give the 2.75.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and again, it's no different than a live event where the same thing happens at a live event.
Yeah. What were some of the patterns that you noticed
Oh, well,
as a
so
team judge?
dismanagement. We were talking about dismanagement on your side with the dog. This was I saw this way too much. And this is probably a pet peeve of mine,
Pick
but
it up,
like,
throw it, pick it up, throw it, pick it up, throw it, pick it up, throw it.
well, that's
That
another
too.
one. That too. Yeah, like if the last 30 seconds of your round, just like Dre said, is pick up one disc throw, pick up one disc throw, pick up one
I
disc,
gave
do a
that
bunch
note a
of
few
flips with it,
times. Yeah.
it becomes obvious that your dismanagement has faltered, excuse me, a little bit, and you don't have the disc that you need to do like a true sequence.
Yep.
But the one thing because the reason I get frustrated, I guess, with this is I feel like it's an easy fix,
Mhm.
but the number of teams that when they got done with their sequence, like they were going through and they maybe did some cool interior stuff, and they had one disc left and they wanted to now collect their discs, they did a toss and fetch style go around and a
Yep.
backhand pursuit toss.
Yep.
And it is so obvious to the judges that now you are doing that
Yeah. The get the
to
dog away from
collect
you
to
throw.
collect your discs.
I call
And
it a four-letter word throw, so I won't say it on the podcast. But yeah, that throw, I had that in the notes a few times too, because there was a lot of that.
like it's so easy to change. Just do a different flat work move. Don't do a go around because a go
Mhm.
around looks like toss and fetch.
Awesome
I'm
stuff.
sorry, it
Yep.
does. So do a different move, pull them through your leg, put them on a flank, or just
Great.
do something different and throw a sidearm, throw an overhand wrist flip. You could even throw a backhand if you didn't do a go around.
If you were
And
spinning when you threw the backhand, or
right,
if you're
yeah,
jumping when you throw the backhand, or if
throw
you do
an
something with your
upside
arm
down
with your body.
backhand or something to mix it up. You want that last throw to look like part of your sequence.
Yep.
Like you don't want it to look like my sequence just ended. Now get the heck out of here while I pick up these discs and
Yeah.
go start my next sequence. And we all know that it's still, even if you do it differently, we all know that that's still what the handler is doing, but it doesn't make it look so obvious and so disjointed to the sequence itself.
Yeah.
So I think that's a quick fix. But it definitely was one of those things that I saw a lot, and I was just sort of like every time I saw it, I'm like, come on, do it a different way.
I think it's a quick fix depending on what style of player you are. Like, I noticed that more people have trouble with those out throws than inside stuff. So while you're saying it's a quick fix, I think that it is this way because it's hard. I don't think that it's a quick fix for people. I think
So,
understanding the concept of getting your dog into a trick in flow after picking up discs or like after doing a sequence, having the dog be right there and having in that moment to execute that alternate throw, I think has such a low success rate for new teams that's why they go to the backhand because they're so flustered at the end they just can't process that yet.
I do get that. I get that. And I think the go around and the
So
backhand
maybe
is
just eliminate one of the two. Like keep your go around, throw a different throw, or work on changing your collection move and throw a backhand, and then work
yeah.
on once you're comfortable with the collection move, then change in the alternate throw. But I think changing both of those at once is just really hard. Another thing I think also is on those collection moves, it's a great place to use pet tricks. Like I know there's a lot of conversation lately about using tricks without a disc and whether that should be, in drop downs and all that stuff. But I think that this is a great way of using pet tricks to set your dog up for something. It's like an around is a collection move. A pet trick is cooler than an around. So use a pet trick like a rollover that also collects your dog. You can have your dog come in, roll over, and throw your continuation throw that way. So you can use your pet tricks to transform them into collection moves, and that adds a lot of ingenuity. And it's a way of using those things that you've put a lot of time and resources into in a way that contributes to your freestyle routine. Um, contributes to your freestyle routine in a way that won't get that same sort of you have too many tricks in a row and not enough discs being thrown feedback.
By the
That makes
way,
sense?
going back to our find your points conversation that we always have, right? That I
Yeah.
think is what makes freestyle so awesome is that you don't have to find your points the same way I do or the same way Dre does. And Dre's talking about like the tricks, like the rollover or like a stall or like, a turn down. And where did those points find themselves in the categories? And so in the team category, any of those trick things, any of like my dog walking backwards, or my dog doing a turn down, or I do some dancey kind of motion with my dog between my legs or something. All of that definitely falls under team connectedness. It even
Mhm.
says that in the bullets. If you read through the bullets, team movement is in there. Unique team movement, I think, is what it's called. And it would fall under ingenuity for sure, and tricks in the human category. So you'd get double points there. And then in the dog category, that definitely can increase your flash score, your dog's
Yep.
flash score, because that's a very flash in the dog category is a very subjective category. We allow our
Mhm.
judges to kind of have a little bit of space there to award those points for anything that dog does to kind of show that flash. And that's also a great way if I don't have a big leaping dog or something like that. I can do some cool tricks or
Yep.
team movement
Team
that,
movement.
yeah, that gets my dog a nice flash score.
Yep. Other ways to get it. It doesn't have to be the dog jumps. They can just be fast. They can hard cut one direction or another. They can be a really operant tricks dog and like tie in. There's there's dogs out there that can't do tricks while there's discs present. I had one on the Moxie. And if you look back at my Moxie routines, you don't see pet tricks in there unless there's a disc in the air. That girl wasn't doing anything or but
Well,
screaming at me. And
I
so if you
think
have a dog,
you did. You just incorporated like you had a
I hid them. Yeah.
backstall juggle, like that you just incorporated
You have to
discs. And
incorporate the disc into it. Yeah. So the dogs that operate better with a thinking mind and less of a disc mind, you might have a stronger tricks routine where you implement discs into the tricks. And if you have a dog that's more of a dog that struggles to perform behaviors that don't immediately involve a disc, you can partner those behaviors like a stall into a juggle to keep the dog in position because they're getting paid with the disc otherwise. But point being is I think the tricks are kind of like icing on the cake. If you have your basic move, if you have your cake batter baked, you can put icing on top, and that's going to make everything a little bit nicer, a little bit tastier, a little bit more enjoyable, right? So that kind of stuff is where you get those quarter points from,
I
adding
think
to the
I think the
player
tricks
before or after.
part could probably fall into showmanship too, depending upon the trick.
Yep.
So there's a
There
lot of
were a lot of
space.
cartwheels and dive rolls and spins and like cool people throwing like just all kinds of creative stuff. I loved it. I was shocked at how much cool handler movement we had.
I will say that I will add to that. I don't know if this is a negative or what. I don't know what it is, but just be cognizant of the amount of time that you are doing that in between throws. So in other words,
Mhm.
like uh, you
Is
don't
your
want
dog
20,
waiting for you while
right,
you're
you don't
doing
want
that
20
thing?
seconds to go by and no disc to have been thrown
Right,
because I'm doing a dance routine with my dog right now.
right.
So any way that you can like mix the two, intermingle the two is great. If it's a little leg weave that, takes 5 seconds and then you're off to doing some other stuff, that's fine. Just be
If you're
cognizant
at
of,
that 15, 20-second mark, there needs to be multiple discs happening in
yeah,
between those
yeah,
tricks.
yeah.
Otherwise, put it as your pre-routine. Put it
Yep.
in the very
Yeah,
beginning.
that's a good place for it. The beginning and endings are a nice place for
I
like,
wouldn't put it at the end because you'll be running out of time unless you don't have any discs at the end and you're just doing a trick like Mona has her position tricks where like after time the dog like balances on her feet and does some blah blah blah.
right.
Time expired 15 seconds ago, but she's still getting in position. Like
Yep.
you can work on a positional trick that way so it doesn't soak up your time. But yeah, beginning or end for that long of a chain of tricks, I think is more beneficial for your scores. It's freestyle, so you can do whatever you want. It's not like you can't do this or it's bad or wrong to do that. But if you're doing it, it's going to impact your score one way or another.
Yeah. I know when the big the big trick of the year was the foot stalls one year about, I don't know, six
Everybody's
or
45 seconds in the middle of their
right.
routine was trying to get a
Right. And
football jump
I
off.
just spent 45 seconds trying to get my dog up onto my feet, and because I'm nervous and my dog's a little bit
You fell
fatigued,
off, and then tried
they
again, and they
right.
fell on their
And
side, and
like,
they didn't drop it, and they're all slobbery, and slobber's going in my face. I just got 3 catches for 75.
yep. And then some people figured it out, and some people were like, I'm going to do this at the beginning of my routine when my dog is fresh,
Yeah.
when I can, as long as I don't throw a disc, time hasn't started. If it's not the performance round, I can put my dog up on my foot stall and then
Mhm.
start my round by throwing my first disc. So
Yeah.
a number of teams figured that one out and got better scores because they weren't, spending 30 seconds getting their dog up on their feet.
We learn day by day. Yeah,
Yep.
so I don't know. I didn't judge human. So we could ask Tracy at a later time what her persistent feedback would be. But yeah, I just had such a different perspective looking from dog. Like I have no idea. You would have a better idea of what some human feedback might be given that you were judging team. But like dog is just I really enjoyed judging dog this time. It was great to just like I just watched the dog go around the field.
Yeah, I think next year I need to switch from team. I actually thought about it as I started judging. I'm like, oh, these poor people. If I,
The same
I
thing
hope
if you
I
give the
hope I
same
didn't.
feedback.
I hope I don't say the same thing that I
Same
did
thing you said
last
last
year.
year.
I probably did for some people.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's good if we switch up. So like
Category.
maybe next year I can grab human or something.
Yep. I don't know. I want to keep dog. I like dog. I've been team and human forever and ever, but
Well, if
Tracy's big
Tracy and
dog
I
kid too.
switch, then at least that you could stay dog, I could take human next year or
Yeah.
whatever, and she could take
Team.
team.
Yeah.
But anyways, like any other big patterns that you saw, big things that stuck out?
Um, I did see some really nice collected leaping from some big shepherds, which made me really happy. That's hard work. There's
Yeah,
nothing but like I mean, you occasionally you're gonna get the diamond in the rough that jumps on their own, right? I've met a couple of them, but man, for the rest of those dogs, I know that those dogs how they jumped last year and the year before, and it was really nice seeing big dogs being played in a safe manner with really nice collection. Because when we started the sport, it wasn't like that. If you saw a big dog jumping, they were definitely driving their rear and they were slamming down hard on their fronts and they weren't collecting at all. So
and
I'm
and no
proud
one
that
really, the judges really didn't, not that they didn't care, but I don't think
we
uh,
didn't know.
it wasn't in your score. I don't
Yeah,
think.
no.
Yeah,
And I mean, and again, it wasn't in the rules. It wasn't written down clearly in the rules that that's something you're even looking for. And so pe people are just going to look for the things they're told to look for as a
right,
judge.
exactly. Goes back to the rubric, goes back to our criteria. One of
Yep.
the things that I'm positive I scored overall higher this year is flow. I saw better flow this year overall than I think I saw
Yeah.
last year. I don't know whether it was people maybe thinking I was going to be the team judge again, and so they were just doing it on purpose. But like, I saw a lot more teams this year like following their dogs, closing the gap,
Yeah.
not
Moving
standing
towards
still, waiting for
them.
their dog to come back to them,
Yeah,
but
it's because they have a
gathering up
planned
those.
collection move. They
What's
have a
that?
planned collection move. That's why these people they're putting in these things that we're talking about, right? So they put a collection move in there to collect their set. So they're not just thinking about the dog running back to them. They're thinking about, I have to be ready for that collection move. It's just a different level of connection with the dog. We said at the very beginning of the episode, but the level of our freestyle teams has just improved so much, and I'm just so proud of what we're putting on the field right now, compared to where we were a year ago and 2 years ago and 3 years ago. I feel like it's really quality freestyle. The dogs look great. The humans are paying attention to where they're throwing and how they're treating their dogs and how they're handling their dogs. There wasn't a single scenario where I felt like somebody was upset or frustrated with their dog or handled them
No, I
in
didn't
a,
see that
in
at
a harsh
all.
manner. And there was no
No.
careless handling. I mean, if you say you went through a contest with 140 rounds to not see any of that, it's pretty impressive. So I was looking at our scores. Um, I'll go ahead and leak this info. Jack and I have been talking about doing a judge's check, adding this to our Updog judging procedure. That after we complete the round of freestyle judging, the judges get together and look at the results. Because there's always going to be mistakes and outliers, especially in a group this big. We're not perfect, and I think we found three or four outliers where there's just little errors here, there, oversights or things that, we judged really early in the round and then somebody, saw it later differently. So I think that made a really big difference to kind of going through everything and making sure that it looked right, and I think that that's something that could be applied universally in the sport that would make a difference. Just that 10-15 minutes after judging a round where the judges can get together and just look at the results and make sure that that's what you want instead of after the fact finding a mistake and then having to, adjust where people's placements were, and then that changes what their experience of it were. And it's not that anybody did anything bad or wrong. It's just, you know, an
It's just,
oversight happened
yeah,
where you missed a drop or a catch or, you
when you
know,
have, yeah, when you have this many teams, it's challenging to keep track of the scores that you gave 30 teams ago or
Mhm.
something like that. And once all the scores get inputted and you see how everything shakes out, and then you can kind of see like, okay, this is our order here. Does this approximately look right? Is there any, like Dre said, is there any outlier on there that looks like, wait a minute, that person was scored really high or really low. Let me just go back and make sure that uh, those values that I put down are the values that they earned and that I really, did I was that the round that I did right before I was going to go get my sandwich and I was feeling my blood sugar level was a little low,
In
and maybe
140 rounds, man, that was rough. That was
yeah,
rough.
maybe I
A
need to
lot.
adjust my flow score, or maybe I need to adjust my dismanagement score for
Yeah.
them. Uh, it's just a double check. Like I said, just because you get done with it and you hit submit, doesn't mean that at the end you can't take a look at everything and make sure that you've done right by all the teams.
Best you can. Yep. Yeah, but I definitely think that the level is significantly higher than it was last year in regards to our connection with the dog. It's much less a person standing throwing to a dog. It's much more like you said, flow. A connected, flowy 2 minute dance between you and your dog. Like the whole thing feels way more connected. So
I
I just
yeah,
I enjoyed watching them way more. I enjoyed judging them way more. Like some years, I gotta be honest, man, when it's a lot of new teams and you have a lot of people playing, it can be really hard to keep your focus, seeing a lot of the same simple stuff over and over, or a lot of failure over and over. This year it was just there was very little freestyles routines. I mean, I don't even know that there were any freestyle routines that I would say were like, less than favorable rounds. I think everybody played great for what their level was. And I didn't see anything that was like, "Ah, I really wish that didn't happen." It was great.
yep, yep, I agree. Yeah, I gave out more
You
threes and
gave out good
fours.
high scores. Yeah.
I mean, I felt like they earned it. I mean, I used the rubric.
I
But
always
yeah,
get paranoid. If I'm the high one, I always get paranoid that I like made some mistake or gave some like extra favor. So I'm like super paranoid about that. I don't want anybody to get upset and think that I like overscore somebody because they're like a friend or like somebody I've worked with at some point. So I'm just like always super critical of the high scores. Is like I have a high score on this one, Jack. Is this okay? And you're like, well, you're judging dog as a totally different category. I'm like, I know, but I don't want to,
Well,
you know.
yeah, that's the thing too, is when you guys are looking at your scores, don't expect them all to be like super close to each other. I mean, they could be if you have a really balanced game between dog team and human, but you'll notice some teams like, maybe their human score is 2, 3 points higher than their other scores because that's really where they excel. Or
Yeah.
maybe my dog is like the strength of my team, and
Yeah.
my dog scores 2 or 3 points higher than my other scores. So
Yeah.
you will see that. Like I said, some teams they're kind of solid across the board, like pretty close scores. But there's definitely a lot of teams where you can see, okay, the strength of this team is their dog, or the human side, or the
Right.
team side, or whatever. But
Yep. And so that's for you guys to look at and say, okay, the dog is the strength of my team. So for the winter, I'm going to focus on my team skill or this handler skill. And look at the categories that you scored the lowest. If you find that that's a category where you consistently, it could also be that just like, hey, that was the round where you didn't hit blah, blah, blah. Just look at where you consistently scored lower and then maybe spend the winter just working on those skills. And then in the
yeah,
spring, when you start contests again, you can reassess, did my score go up from last year in this category? I spent all winter working on that. And one more caveat about that, local judging. I'll say this to anybody I talk to, don't take it too much to heart what scores you get. The people are for Updog, we have at least one trained certified freestyle judge, right? And there's four butts in those seats. And those people are spending 6 hours of their day with those butts in those seats, probably not getting paid. So where you get scored locally, take it to with a grain of salt. If you're looking for a more balanced assessment of your freestyle, go to a larger event where there's more experienced judges, where maybe all the judges on the panel are certified freestyle judges. So just take that into account. Local judging, people are volunteers, are probably not getting paid. Don't get super attached to those scores. They could be all over the place. The best place to kind of test yourself is go to a large regional event where all the judges are certified freestyle judges and then ask for their feedback afterwards, take the feedback afterwards, that kind of stuff. And even at the local events, yeah, people's opinions are certainly valuable. You'll glean something from everybody, but you don't have to be as married to those being accurate as if you were to go to a large regional event where maybe it's more of the people that are training the freestyle judges that are judging the event.
yeah. Um,
Because a lot of people they get hurt, their feelings hurt from getting a really low score in a certain category, but it's at a local.
well,
And that
and
person has never even been through our program, they're just writing down a two because that's what it felt like to them.
and sometimes, you might get inflated scores and then go to a bigger event where, just like
And get
I said, you've
really
got three certified judges and they're following the rubric a little bit closer, and all of a sudden my fours that I normally get are in
are
the
two and a
threes.
halfs
And
and
I'm
they're
like,
two to three.
what?
Yeah.
These judges are horrible.
Yep. Yeah. So
One of
traveling is really the first kick in the pants that you get when you start getting good at freestyle and you go to a different club and your score tanks. It's because you're the best one in your club.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if there's spots left, Dre. Are there spots left in our November
Yeah,
seminar?
there's single day spots left. And then so I guess there's still 3 day spots left if somebody wants it. I think we had 4 or 5 spots left, so we do.
So we've been talking about like dog human team and breaking things down. Like, if you've enjoyed this conversation and you're kind of a freestyle nerd and you want to like dig into it a little bit more, Dre and I are doing a pretty unique seminar that I know neither one of us have done it this way before,
Mhm.
but we're gonna have one day is dedicated to the dog category, one day dedicated to the human, and then one day dedicated to the team. And during the day, we're going to be focusing on some of the critical skills in each of those categories where we think teams can improve, and providing tasks and exercises to help you guys improve those categories.
Yeah.
And then around midday, we're stopping. Everyone grab something to eat, kind of recoup, get your energy back up, and then we're going to go into looking at videos, identifying those things that we had been talking about in practice, like identifying them on videos, using videos of teams that we'll pull like teams like from the Updog community, but we'll also be using video from the day, so that we can analyze and see like, well, how many points would that have gotten me, and what could I have done to have gotten a little bit more points. It's going to really help you to understand each of the categories and each of the skills and where you could focus your training. Because we're doing that in the late afternoon, evening times and really diving into the scoring and everything else, at the end of the seminar, everyone that completes the entire seminar will also become certified certified freestyle head judges. Let me add, if they pass the test, which everyone we won't be taking a test at the end of the seminar, because that'd be the worst. At the end of a long 3-day seminar when everyone's beat, then give them a test. But you will have passed the judging course part, and then you'll become certified once you take the test later. CAT will send you the test. But I think it's a really unique opportunity to marry the knowledge and the mental part of the game with the physical and the putting it into practice.
Yep.
So if that's something that sounds interesting and cool to you, check it out. It is
it's a month from now. Yeah, it's November 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Is that it?
That sounds right.
21st, 22nd, 23rd, Friday, Saturday, Sunday of November. And remember, Thanksgiving is later this year, so it's a week before Thanksgiving. Yeah, so that's Friday, Saturday, Sunday, 22nd, 23rd, 21st.
And it's indoors, right? It's indoors.
It's indoors, spatial heating, but it was fine last year. It wasn't. Jack and I claim the spatial heaters.
Yeah.
Bring your own spatial heater.
Yeah.
No, but it is indoors, and they said that it was a nice space. It wasn't too cold last year, so it should be fine. And we don't even know how cold it's going to be in November up there. It's November, so could be very cold. It could be a nice day. So we'll see how it shakes out. But I'm excited about that format.
All right. Well, I think we've talked enough about our Freestyle Crown, at least for this round. We may come back and have another conversation after the performance round. We're looking forward to seeing the performance rounds.
Yep.
And we know that you guys are out there in these final months before it gets too cold to get out and play your dog. I know you're hitting the fields trying to get your last points for UpDiff. Maybe you're tweaking your freestyle round. So enjoy that. And while you're doing that,
be kind to each other.
And be kind to your animals. We will see you next time on The Sweet Spot.
See you guys.
We have a rubric for that.